Hi, welcome back to His and Hers. I'm Deanna.
And I'm David. Today, our topic is: should parents be punished for their child's bad behavior?
This is going to be a hot topic, I think.
Well, tell us about Rainforest.
Well, I work at Rainforest Cafe at Disney Springs, and we do get a lot of unruly children there. Just recently, he's old enough to know better. He got mad at his parents, took a shot glass, and threw it with all his force down on the ground and shattered the sucker. All because they said no to him for something. There was nothing left of this shot glass. That's how much force. Now, an adult would do that. That's destruction of property. But this is a kid.
So, who's responsible? I blame the parent to some degree because they're not parenting. Just saying no, no consequences. My father used to call, "Geez, son, you're tough love." And I used to be like, "Where did I get it from, Dad?" You know. So, what happened with parent pay for the glass?
No, no, they actually left it. They said, "Oh, it's not like, sorry," and then they left, and we were dealing with it because I was like, we should have made him pay for that. Normally, when you have a toddler that knocks it over accidentally, you don't make them pay for it because it's an accident. But this was done on purpose. I personally think they should have made him pay for it, but anymore, it's it is. We're afraid they're going to offend the parents, or because this is also Disney. They want the money, so oh, okay, just go. Thank you. Bye. Come again. So you have that
So,
too.
I mean, something as simple as that, or I was listening to the news the other day, and parents knew that their child had a mental disorder, but they went out and bought him a gun. That child wound up bringing the gun to school. Now, before he could do anything with it, one of his classmates found out he had a gun, found out what he planned to do with it, and went to the principal. Police were called. Thankfully, arrived on time, removed the gun from the child, called the parents in. So, what responsibility do the parents have in something like that? Also, I mean, there are two very extremes from being told no and having bad behavior to something of mental disorder, and you buy the kid a gun.
Well, look, there was just it was a couple months ago, and I can't remember all the details, but these kids were bullying another kid, and they were filming it, and they beat the kid up, and I think the kid died. And the parents were like, nobody did anything about it. And the father was really upset. He's like, we should be going after the parents because they're the ones that taught their kids that it's okay
They
to
raise their children, yes.
the bullying and all that. Because that made the news about that. I remember that part. But
So to throw that in there, okay, punish the parents when not. I mean, hold them accountable for some of the actions of their children, but not all of them. But what about the government? Because how many kids will tell their parents, "If you hit me, I'll call the what is it? The Department of
it's like CYS or Child Protective
Child
Service.
Protective Services." I mean, what happens? Kid calls, says that you're threatening him, going to hit him, whatever. Police come, take the parent away to jail, and now you have to sit there and explain if you stay a night in jail or not. I don't know, but now you got to figure out, how did you get yourself in this mess?
Well,
I mean, the child just used a weapon against you.
right. Well, there has been a few, and it depends on the cops because there has been instances where a call has been made, and the police actually talk to the kid, and they go, "Okay, what did you do?" And he goes, "Well, I mouthed off to my mom, and she hit me." "Okay, why'd she hit you?" "I called her a bad word." And the cop is actually like, "Well, I don't blame her, your mom. That's not abuse." You do have some instances where that happens. I have friends that are cops, and they've told me these stories where they've actually talked to the kid, and they find out the kid's basically, like he said, they're using it as a weapon.
I mean, kids will use that as a weapon. If parents are responsible for their child's behavior all the time for everything, then children will use that as a weapon to get revenge on their parents for not buying them something, saying no, they can't do this, grounding them. I mean, where's this line that we have to draw? Now, I think the parents should be responsible for buying their kid a gun when they knew he had a mental disorder. Those parents should be held responsible.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, but a kid throwing a tantrum and breaking a glass, I think the parents should have had to pay for the glass. But that's just bad parenting. And there's a lot of that going on.
I had years ago in a hospital, all we had to do was a throat culture, and the kid destroyed my lab. And I remember the boss coming in, she yelled at the parents to get the kid out because you just did $4,000 worth of damage, and the kid's not that sick. The mother told us she does natural parenting, that he will correct himself. He's a kid. He doesn't know how to correct himself. All he learned is if I throw a big enough tantrum, I'm not going to get it done.
Yeah. Kids push boundaries. Mm-hmm. You got to set boundaries. My sister's kids, when they're with me, had a whole different demeanor than when they're with them. Because I set the boundaries and I made sure those boundaries were known. And they misbehaved, I handled the problem. You know, but today, scream loud enough, holler. Parents don't want to deal with their children. And also, they want to be their best friend. You can't be their best friend. You have to be their parent.
I mean, I don't know about you, but when I was 16 years old, I hated my mom. She was on me about everything, you know, hated her. Now that I'm an adult, I needed a parent back then. I didn't need a best friend. That's where I think a lot of problem is. Oh, I want to go to the party with you. You're dressing like your teenage daughter. You're doing this because you want to be their friend, because you want to know everything that's going on. Because it's the, what's the word? Helicopter parent?
Helicopter parents that protect their children from everything.
Right. Well, guess what? You can't protect them from everything. And they need a parent, not a best friend.
I've got a coworker. He's got 2 boys, and he'll let his boys make mistakes. He'll watch it. He'll let his boys do things as long as they don't get seriously hurt, as long as they don't, get seriously like in trouble in a sense, put themselves in a bad situation. But he says that's how they learn, and he's right. Because when you do something and you see the consequences of doing something, you remember that. That's a learning moment. And a lot of helicopter parents, like you said, protect their kids from doing any of that, and they have not a clue of what right or wrong is, good and bad, and what they can do and what they can't do.
It goes back to the whole participation trophy thing. There's no winners, there's no losers. They, kids are a blank slate, and we really don't give them a right or wrong way. It just...
So I mean, holding parents accountable, I guess it's a very judgmental, objective decision, because yes, to some of it. I mean, I guess it would go to the severity of what a kid does. And like I said, and if a parent is held responsible for everything they do, then that kid's going to literally use that as a weapon against their parent, because they'll know that they can go unchecked and that they'll get their parent in trouble, and they'll be like, ha ha, I showed you. And you can't let a kid have that kind of power over their parents, even though a lot of kids do. A lot of kids run their household. Let me tell you what, but you're not supposed to let children have that kind of power over their parent. You're supposed to let a parent, which our government has taken away a lot of that. And
it just,
it's sad.
You know what it is too? Like one of our other podcasts about God. There's no fear of God in these kids because the parents aren't. If you do, if a parent is held accountable for what their child does, and like you said, the kid's going to use it as a weapon. But if you are actually parent your kid and you teach them right from wrong and say, look, you cannot use this as a weapon. That's wrong. You cannot use just because you didn't get a cookie today. If you teach them that, they're not going to use that as a weapon.
How many people speed? We all know it's wrong, right? It is. It's reward versus consequences. That's what it boils down to. It's the reward versus the consequences.
What's the concept? Tough love, too. Sometimes you got to do tough love.
I'm a true believer in tough love.
Yeah.
I think tough love gets the results. I mean, I think tough love You can be the parent, the best friend, and raise a great kid.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. And I've seen it done with people. And I've also
Because
seen...
with tough love, you need to explain the consequences. You need to explain the reward. You need to ask them, are they willing for the reward in case, or the consequence? I mean, they have to. Kids will understand if you have a conversation with them and explain it, but that's called parenting. And there's such a lack of parenting, and that's why you have all these kids just running amok and misbehaving, and kids crying and fussing. It's like, just give them whatever they want just to shut them up, because you don't have time for it. That's the thought process. How many of you been in an airplane and you got a little baby and they're crying? You're like, just do whatever it takes to shut that baby up. Well, that's bad parenting in a sense, if you think about it, because that rewards bad behavior. I understand a baby doesn't know any better. I get it. But little kids, things like that, I get it.
Yeah, George Carlin brought up one time, one of his comedy acts, he said, well, you put these kids on timeout. You send them to their room because they did something bad. He goes, have you ever seen their room? They've got computers, they've got iPads, they got this, they got everything in there. How is that punishment? He says, you want to punish them, send them to your room because you have nothing in it. And that's part of the problem too. We've rewarded them with so much stuff.
Well, today's punishment with children is give me your cell phone.
Yeah.
To me, it was give me the car keys.
My parents never hit us, but the fear that my dad was going to smack us because we did wrong, it was just enough to okay, I'm going to wait till your dad gets home. Oh God, we didn't want to disappoint your dad.
No. When I was younger, I was in high school. I upset my father. I don't remember what it was. And my dad grabbed me by my shoulders and tried to throw me in my room. And I laughed right in his face. It's like, who are you? You can't move me. Because I worked out. I was bulked up. I'm in high school, freaking in the gym. And my dad said, oh, yeah? He goes, you might be bigger than me, but when I stand on my wall and I'm bigger than you, you get in your room or I don't give you an allowance anymore. I was in my room so fast, made Roadrunner look like he was going backwards. That was kind of like an eye-opener right there, is, one of those things that whatever I did, it was bad behavior. My dad sure knew how to correct it.
Yeah. And sometimes you don't have to do anything physical. Sometimes, like you said, it's just the words you use. They can, what do you say, words hurt or something like that?
No, words can hurt.
Yeah. Words can actually, if you use the right words, it can get a point across.
Yeah, words never hurt me. That is not true. That is, that fluff is such garbage, because words can be sharp as swords.
Yeah.
Can hurt as much as getting shot. And in fact, there are a lot of children out there who have been bullied with words, that have taken their own lives.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
And then what do you do to the children? Nothing. I mean, there's no consequences for their actions and what they did. You have kids misbehaving on a bus. Misbehaving on a bus, bullying one child. The parent of that child got on the bus to protect her kid, and that parent got arrested. What is this world coming to? Teacher sat a student down in the cafeteria because that student was bullying somebody else. That teacher had a conversation with the kid. That teacher got fired because of that conversation of trying to stop the bullying. So what is going on? We are rewarding such bad behavior these days. Yeah. And we are punishing the people that are trying to correct this bad behavior.
And bullying is worse than when we were kids because of technology. We didn't have the Facebook, the Instagram, Snapchat stuff. And it gets
No, it was done face to face.
It was done face to face. Now these kids, they'll put stuff up on the internet And it's not just like that little circle group. It's like the whole world sees it. And that's actually, I found this out from a cop friend, that's actually called harassment by communications.
Yep. They've had to develop new terminology for
Because of what goes
new
on.
crimes. So, I mean, who's held responsible for all this? Do we hold the parent responsible for bad parenting?
You know what? When this gets brought up to those parents, I didn't know he was doing that online. Okay. Why do we have these parent locks and parent stuff and all this like for the TV if you don't use them? Or what's the use of them? You know what I mean?
So, I mean, we start off the podcast, should parents be punished for their children behavior? I don't have the answer to that. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. I guess it depends on the level of behavior.
I think it depends on the situation. Like the gun incident, yeah, the parents should be held responsible because you gave a loaded weapon to someone with a mental disorder. Bullying, I actually think parents should be held responsiple because you're the ones that's teaching.
Not my boy. My boy's a good boy. No, my boy would never do that.
That's why he's sending nudes online.
That's what parents like to believe their children.
Right.
They're just such all good boys and all good girls, and they don't do that kind of thing.
Right.
Because they're trying to be, I guess, a best friend. Or they're called, like, another topic we want to talk about is who's raising your children today? I mean, literally, who's raising them? Both parents work. Kids go to school. They get, as some people believe, educated, indoctrinated, brainwashed. So, whatever. But the public schools are raising your children because then they go to aftercare hour things. And then from aftercare, they come home, and what do? You cook. Maybe do the homework with them if you are not tired from working. You watch a little bit of TV because that's all the time you have, and then you go to bed. So how much quality time did you get to spend with your child that day? Who spent the quality time? The education system.
Yep. And they're also the blame for why Susie's failing school, too.
So should they be held responsible for the child's behavior? I mean, there's a lot of times I think the principal should be held responsible. I think the teacher should be held responsible because of their bad decision making. But you cannot, it is not a crime to be an idiot or stupid.
It used to be at one point that
Never been a crime because you can always plead ignorance. There is no crime against ignorance.
Because then when you brought up about the school system, it used to be, I don't know about you guys, but I remember we had to sign a permission slip from our parents that if you had misbehaved in school, the principal could paddle you. We don't have that anymore.
You didn't have to sign a permission slip when I was in school because they would just freaking paddle you.
Yeah. But now they can't.
And back in the day, I didn't misbehave in school because 1, I didn't get paddled by the principal. 2, I don't want to go home and get paddled again.
Yeah.
I feared my father. I feared my parents.
That's the problem. There's no fear at all with these kids. There's none. And maybe if they had a little fear of, hey, something's going to happen if I do this, maybe they wouldn't be running amok. So again, goes back to who's
responsible for your parents' behavior? Parents. Your
children.
kids' behaviors.
Well, parents' behavior too. It's the children's responsible for their parents' behavior.
And nowadays, parents are just as bad as their kids. I'll tell you what. Because it just seems that the responsibility could be anybody's. It's always a blame game of who's responsible. It's not me. I'm the parent. I raised my kid right. I guess it's your kids. Well, no, he doesn't know any better. I'm so tired of that phrase. Kids know better. Kids learn quickly. Kids see patterns. Kids know if they do this, that you're going to have to pay for it.
Right.
That little kid that broke that shot glass, I don't care how old you are, I'd bend you over my knee and spank you. And then I'd be going to jail in handcuffs because somebody would call the cops. Oh, child abuse. Spanking a child, not child abuse. Smacking them across the face, punching him in the gut, knocking his lights out. Okay, I give you that one. But spanking a child should not be for child abuse.
Mm-mm. I mean, yeah. I mean, I've seen kids call their parents everything but their names. And it's like, you would never dare to talk to your parents like that when I was a kid. Now it's like, oh, it's normal. Instead of calling them mom and dad, hey, Joe, hey, Betty, and you're 10. No, they're mom and dad, not the friend. That's, I think, a lot of the problem is you're just too busy trying to be their friend. They have enough friends. They need a parent.
So I had my niece. My sister came up to see my oldest niece in college with my younger niece. We were going to do Universal. Went to make breakfast, had breakfast. She didn't want to eat anything. Too picky this, too picky that. Okay. What do you want? Made an agreement. Okay, we'll go to McDonald's. Went to McDonald's or Burger King, one of the two, for French toast sticks, whatever. She didn't like them. I'm not going to eat anything. I'm not hungry. I said, you're going to be hungry. I said, if you don't eat now, we are not eating till noon. Literally noon. I don't care, Uncle Dave. We'll just go eat whatever. Okay. 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm hungry. Oh my God, that's all I heard. I told her, I said, we're not eating till noon. Do you remember what I told you? Yeah, but I'm hungry now. I said, next time you listen, you eat when we're supposed to eat, you wouldn't be hungry. So she sat there, and I think she said it one more time, and I told her, I said, if you complain, we're not going to eat till 12:30. And then if you complain more, we won't eat till 1. I didn't hear another word until about 1:45. And she goes, is it close enough? Can we eat now? I said, what'd I tell you? She said noon. I said, is it noon? She said, no. We didn't eat. Noon hit. She let me know. We were in the restaurant eating lunch. You know what the lesson she learned? I'm going to eat when my uncle tells me to eat, because if he tells me we're not eating, then I know we're not eating. And then she kind of got me in the end a little bit, because after Universal, we went to a restaurant to go have lunch. She's like, oh, I don't like this place. I don't like that place. I'm like, the Ale House, right? Ale House. They don't have anything I like. I said, how do you know? What's on their menu? I don't know. Yeah, typical kid, right? Go to the Ale House. Ooh, can I get a salad with this and that? So I got her basically 3 things on the kids' menu. No big deal. She basically picked at all 3 of them. Didn't really eat much. So I ate my meal. Hers wasn't big. I was still hungry, so I ate hers. And I told her that's the last time she's going to do that to me. She got me. But she never did it again because she knew that was the last time, because I said so.
Yeah, but she also knew you meant business, too.
That's what I mean. Her mom, on the other hand, different story. But she knew her boundaries with me, and she knew her boundaries with her mother. So kids need boundaries. They need parenting. They need to learn that there's a consequence for their actions. They need to understand that they just can't do anything and everything that they want to do, because none of us can. And I hate this thing, I said so. I hate when parents said it. I hate when my parents said it. You know, I do not believe that's a good answer. I think parents need to explain to their children why. Take the time. Why? Raise your kid by saying, because I said so. You're not raising that child. You're not developing that kid. Explain to the kid why. So that kid understands why you are saying no or not allowing anything. Whether they agree with it or not, it's immaterial. But they need to understand. And I don't think parents explain things to their children to understand. And that results in all this bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And who should be responsible for it.
I think the only thing kids actually learn from their parents anymore is the louder I scream, the more I get stuff.
Well, they learn that from being a baby, right?
Right.
Babies can only cry when they're cold or hungry or whatever. What do? We cater to them. So in the very beginning, they're learning this.
Right. I just remember I was in a grocery store and I want a cookie. No, because we're going to eat in an hour. I want a cookie. No, we're going to eat in an hour. Next thing you know, throw himself on the floor, kicking and screaming. I want a cookie. Okay, here's your cookie. What did he learn? Kick and scream. I'm going to get a cookie.
Yeah, the kid would have been like, I want a cookie. I said, next time you say you get a cookie, I'm going to bend you over my knee and spank you.
Well, My mom would have been like, fine, and would have left us in the middle of the store, probably kicking and screaming. Because you didn't, well, we never dared to do that because fear of God. You don't want
more or less fear of your parents.
Fear, yeah. More fear of my dad than my mom. It seems like you, at least for girls, you fear your father more than you do your mom. Because I think fathers just have more of that authority. In their
Fathers have the voice.
Yeah.
I go with it.
And I think moms tend to cave in more. I think they're the ones that, just don't tell your dad. Just don't tell your dad. Like, I did this, I did that. So, anyway.
So, as I said earlier, whatever, when should parents be responsible for their child's behavior? And everybody has an opinion on that. That's what our show's about, opinions.
Right.
And it will be up to you to decide where you draw that line. Because you hear a lot of things in the news and you see a lot of things in life. And you have an opinion of where you draw that line. And unfortunately, everybody draws it in a different place.
You know, that could be what the problem is. Maybe we have just too much free will. And that's why we got parents being whatever. I don't know.
I just think parents gotten lazy and don't want to upset their children, don't want to, they're not parenting kids anymore.
Mm.
And they don't have the time. The school system's doing that for them.
Which will be another topic for another day.
So on that note, thank you for listening. And we look forward to your feedback. And my question to you is, where do you draw that line?
Yeah. So, what do you think? Do you think parents should be held responsible or not? Well, I can't wait to hear what you guys say. So, thank you for listening. And don't forget to check us out on YouTube. We're also on Facebook under His and Hers Podcast. And you can find us on Spotify as well. Thanks.
Take care.